Hi, everyone. Welcome to our podcast series 21 Marching Building Disability Confident Organizations. I am Sonika Aaron, the founder and CEO of Marching Sheep. Building disability confident organizations is no longer a choice or a good to do. It is also no longer just a social imperative, it is a business imperative. As per SEBI guidelines, the top 150 organizations by market capitalization have to submit a form, the BRSR, which is Business Responsibility Sustainability Report. And this report very clearly tracks what are organizations doing as far as inclusion of women and persons with disabilities are doing. Now, it is not just about representation, but also about career development, growth, nurturing, how organizations are actually ensuring an inclusive organizations for women as well as persons with disabilities. Recently, I attended an ESG conference, and given that many CEOs and CHROs today have sustainability or ESG as one of their major KRAs, I was expecting that there would be a lot of CHROs and CEOs as speakers or in the audience. And to my surprise, there were none. There were people who were sustainability heads. There was a lot of focus on environmental factors, carbon emission footprint, waste management, but really nothing on the S part of ESG. And that got me thinking that we are really in trouble. The RPWD Act has been around since 2016, almost 8 years. But even today, when we speak to clients and we say that, what is your focus when it comes to inclusion, focus in inclusion, many of them still say that we are still focusing on gender and that too on women. But the fact is that the narrative around diversity is broadening. The tenets of inclusion, which is respect, transparency, communication, all these remain the same. So why are we not moving ahead? And these are some of the conversations that we intend to have through these podcasts. And for that, we have some very special people today with me. So let me start with the first person. I have huge respect for Rajesh Mehta. I met him earlier this year when we participated in the Purple Fest. He was one of the main organizers along with NHRDN. And I was simply amazed that how could this one person be at every place at all the time? And he made everyone participating feel like everyone was special. He is someone with more than 2 decades of HR experience. He is a very active advocate for persons with disabilities. He has been the recipient of many awards, and he's extremely recognized in both national and international circles. So, thank you, Rajesh, for joining us today. The second person that we have Arushi. Arushi is a young firebrand. She is also a disability rights advocate, writer, and speaker. She has written extensively around disability rights and various other topics in many magazines, blogs, books, social media platforms. She works as a volunteer in various organizations for such as Access for Everyone, SOLAP, and Volunteer for India. She's currently leading an advocacy project for the rights of students with locomotor disabilities in schools, supported by the United Nations Office of Drugs and Crime and Bhumi NGO. So, Arushi, again, thank you so much for joining us today. And I'm really, really looking forward to an awesome conversation.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Rajesh, coming to you, many times we hear, and these days there is a lot of focus on hiring of people with disabilities. So there are recruitment fairs, there are recruitment melas. But what really happens after that? So you have been around for more than 2 decades. What has been your observation?
So, Sonika, thank you so very much for asking this pertinent question. And trust me, it's equally worries me because I agree. Organization has started showing that change, interest, hiring people with disability or differently able people, whatever kind of one may like to call it. But what's next? You know, does organization has a clear-cut career development process for these people? Do they have a clear defined roles which can be offered to people with diversity abilities? In fact, I may like to also, kind of go ahead and, ask that many of our skill building tools and resources, which could be, kind of physical learning infras or a kind of LMS of the online world, are those kind of accessible? I in fact may like to also kind of comment stating that I agree, kind of we all may like to get hired or organization wants to kind of go ahead and tap onto this particular potentials of the differently able. But then, even today, many of these technological challenges comes as a barrier. Many of these, kind of online learning systems are really not 100% screen reader friendlier. Many of these, learning designs that we propose or we see, kind of organization picking up are actually not conducive for the various constituencies of people with disabilities. Now, that's one side of it. Now, other side, if I really need to look at, I personally have been very, very lucky and fortunate because in my 2 decades career with IBM, I had a fantastic mentor. In fact, our systems are also brilliant, right? And even if those at times, given me the challenge, the biggest help that I have received is from my fellow colleagues called IBMer, and that's the biggest tool or a technology that I consider. But then, our all the other organizations are ready. That's the major, kind of thought process that we need to, kind of think about.
Right.
So, and considering what you asked me, it really leads me to ask a question to my, friend here, Arushi, because I know that she must be receiving so many people requests, who may like to develop their career or job experience, etc., etc. How they are looking into this entire career development space, Arushi? I mean, what you are hearing and what you are receiving as a feedback.
Um, First of all, thank you for inviting me over, Sonika, and thank you for that pertinent, extremely important question, Rajesh. So let me start by giving a base to this conversation, to this answer. The base is that a lot of what we see, a lot of how companies think of inclusion rather comes from the medical model of disability. wherein we are hyper focusing on what people with disabilities cannot do from the very beginning, from the day of the diagnosis. So, as a person with locomotor disability and as a wheelchair user, it's a long list of things that you cannot do. You cannot access this part, that part, this, that. I'm a good writer, I've done stuff. That is very secondary. The CV is just in the background, it's just playing another role. Um, the moment you say person with disability, not just sometimes, not just organizations working for people with disabilities, maybe sometimes take a step back in the hiring process. And why I'm saying this is because inclusion as a concept also is something that has come in the industry very recently, in maybe the past decade or two, maybe, if not more, if not less, right? uh, I am seeing selective inclusion, not with just my own experiences, but with a lot of experiences of my friends who are fellow people with disabilities as well. So, inclusion for maybe other communities such as LGBTQ, such as women, that is being driven more, which is a very good thing, because we do as a country need to work a lot on that inclusion as well. But at the same time, whenever it comes to providing reasonable accommodations, whenever it comes to providing accessibility for people with disabilities, we're completely sidelined, because that extra tinge of effort is something that companies are either not able to put in for whatever reason, or they are just somewhere lacking that awareness as to where to start. That's one thing. And because I have recently completed an internship 2 months long with the United Nations Office of Drugs and Crime, UNODC. My project is in collaboration with them. Um, that happened to me, you know, solely through cold emailing and trying to reach out. But at the same time, I got rejected a lot before that. I knew sometimes the blatant reason was disability. Sometimes maybe, maybe not. I mean, I probably, thought to myself, maybe I don't have the strongest CV, maybe not. But there are some loopholes in that hiring also. People who were ready to hire because, you don't have to pay an intern. The skills are good. You are getting what you are asking for, but they don't want to pay you. Even disability affirmative organizations, because I knew I wanted to go in the sector and I wanted to experience the sector and work in this field of study only. So it's they were not paying, number one. Number two, it's also the fact that they're asking you to work from a different location 5 days a week. So as a person with disability living in a city like Delhi, I cannot use public transport. The bare minimum I will expect you to give me, if you are a disability affirmative organization especially, is to at least give me my commute, if nothing else, right? Because if I'm going from South Delhi to North Delhi every day, 5 days a week, 9 to 5, one, it's taxing. Number two, at least give me that, little bit of incentivization to at least be able to afford that transportation facility. That's one thing. And the other thing is that, what happens very often is that now, after the advent of COVID, work from home opportunities have increased a lot, right? But some organizations are still very stringent. See, for a person to hire a person with disability who's talented, knows what they're doing, it is a very advisable thing to do for an organization to let them maybe work in hybrid mode, if not WFH, right? You're not, you're not bearing the cost of them having a seat. You have no reasonable accommodations to give whatsoever. And you're certainly not giving so many incentives. I mean, at least in an intern's perspective, right? And the intern is getting work done. At least a person like me will get work done, because I would know what I've had to, go through to reach that one internship. So, but they don't want to do it for whatever reason. The reason sometimes being, okay, productivity is better than in the office, this and that. I'm a content writer. I want to do content work. I'm working on my laptop regardless of where I'm working from. So, like, where's the problem? So with UN also, they were very clear. You work from home. You're working in front of a laptop. You're reachable at all times. We'll assign you work. You get work done. Get the deliverables. Get over with it. Right? That was that. And I had a mentor, so that made it easier. And those are some of the, I think, fundamental issues that I'm seeing. And a lot of people with disabilities, for experience's sake, are now taking to volunteering. So,
Mm.
for example, now that my initiative has taken, it's going up. It's now gaining traction over social media, and it's getting the visibility it deserves. I get a lot of emails, and so many of them are for people from people with disabilities. I would hire them with open arms. I mean, I'm a disability centric initiative. I'm not going to go ahead discriminate against them. So a lot of non-disabled people in the team ask me. I have a sort of a collaboration, non-disabled and disabled volunteers, right? So they ask me, they're not able to churn out as much work. You have to constantly shift dates, this and that. Why are you doing all of the hassling? Because I am the leader. So it means constant delegation, constant redelegation. I said, because for me to accommodate them, because I come from that very space, is easier as opposed to just telling them, please leave because you're not able to work.
Mm.
That person is not able to work for one day. And one day productivity is not going to define next 6 months of your productivity. I'm not productive for one day in a week. I mean, it's fine. You will live. The initiative is not going anywhere. One Instagram post, one comment here and there, and one late event is not going to crash my initiative down. That's not going to happen. But if I am to curb the voices of these people with disabilities, if I'm to, as in not to be there, because I can't hire you because you're a disabled person, you'll not be able to work. That's unfair on my part on a lot of levels. So that's how I see it. And thankfully, organizations who still do WFH are
Mm.
able to churn, are able to give the experience that people with disabilities need, because I'm seeing the CVs of some people, they're really good.
Yeah.
And for forever experience I have had in content writing, freelance work, this and that, my CV has also become better post COVID, because now opportunities are there, and now recruiters don't just say a blatant no to your face. So they're trying their hardest, to upscale, they're trying their hardest to learn no matter what. I have mentored so many people on my own as a writer. I've tried to mentor, rather, to be very honest. So they're trying very hard, but I just feel like I would just like to sort of wrap this up by saying that it's not a 50-50 situation. It's a 80-20 situation. 80 being the person's responsibility, 20 being the organization. That rejects a person not even giving a proper, legitimate, reasonable excuse as to why they're not going with their application. Because, I mean, of course, you cannot say you're not going with the application because you're a person with disability. Can't do that. Can't cook up a lie. So we just leave the person hanging out of nowhere. And I have seen this happen, and I'm seeing this happen a whole lot to people who are extremely talented. And frankly speaking, it hurts and it's scary, because I'll be probably in the same situation the next 1 year as I complete my postgrad.
Mm.
So, Sonika, I would like to understand from you that you interact with so many firms and organizations on a daily basis. What, in your perspective, have been some success stories and solutions to the issues with hiring of people with disabilities?
So, Arushi, and I think Rajesh, you also helped me out. I think there has been a mixed bag of observations. So, Rajesh and I were part of a conference in June. And I remember when we were trying to organize along with the organizer, right? So, Abid and I were very particular, saying that, listen, if we have people with disability, it was a DEI conference. If we have people with disabilities coming in, a few things are very necessary. One, what is it that they need? Let us not assume. What is it that they need? That was number one. Second, is there somebody who might need sign language translation? So, do we need to call a translator, sign language translator? The third thing, we said that, there should be enough space. If there are wheelchair users, there should be enough space, because there was another conference I had attended almost a year back. And it was also a DEI conference, and there was barely any space for wheelchair users, right? So these were little things. And Rajesh was there, and I remember I told Abid, who was the producer, I said, please check with Rajesh if he requires any support, anything. And Rajesh said, no, I don't need anything. So that was fine. But many times I think, as an organization, as an institution, as people, because we are not aware, or we forget to think beyond our own experience, our own reality. We don't put ourselves in the shoes of people with disabilities. We are not able to comprehend. And I think that is where the issue is. When I heard Rajesh speak that my biggest support were my mentor, my manager, or my colleagues, the IBMers, or when I hear you say that I had a mentor at UN, when we work with organizations, where I see that they make the biggest change, organizations which have been able to make a change, is where they are working on the mindsets of people. So, see, and Rajesh, you can add here, end of the day, reasonable accommodation does not cost anything. You want to give somebody work from home, it does not cost anything. How much will accessibility? Matlab, today there are so many inbuilt tools which come with your laptop, with your desktop, with your MS Office, and so on and so forth. There's so many tools which come. If you go on your phone, there are accessibility tools if you go into your settings, right?
But so Sonika, I wanted to come in. Okay, and
Yeah.
so I haven't rejected, but this is the whole uh, lacuna, right? This is the whole circle, which kind of entire world keep moving into. See, example, kind of even today. So basically, there are two types of organizations, right? One who is aware, okay,
Uh-huh.
and secondly, kind of who is still living in that fear factor, who feels that assistive technology or any of a person hiring a person with disability may come with the additional cost or a features as you were talking about, which is not at all truth, which is not at all kind of even justifying, right? Let me give you an example so that our listeners can understand. Let me give you an example in terms of visually challenged, okay, or visually impaired. um, Gone are the days when only corporates used to kind of pick up JAWS, just access with speech.
Hmm.
Nowadays, if you look at NVDA, comes absolutely free of cost.
Hmm.
For that matter, in fact, we are talking about the sign language interpreter,
Hmm.
right? But then if you look at, there are also online tools which provides the captioning features and many more,
Yeah.
right? So those all things are there. If someone wants to kind of take that plunge and kind of invest into that talent, okay, rather than keep on thinking about what would be the extra cost. That's number one. But I want to go back to the basic, or I want to step back, right? And I want to really kind of ask, saying that because we started discussing about the career development, why within the same organization where people have been hired at the freshers level, why there may not be a career development or a clear cut roadmap, or a why overall people might be scared to promote that particular person with disability at a mid level or a higher level. Okay,
Hmm.
now if you look at, it's all about the trust deficits, right? Because as we grow, the path becomes narrower. Okay, it does not remain the broader, right? Now, at a freshers level, the personal, I mean, the mindset is okay. People, anybody can kind of manage it, or anybody can do it, right? So even with the person with disability, with the least difficulty, he or she may able to perform. But as kind of the years of experience grows, etc., etc., the same person who had shown, the faith, saying, yeah, I wanted to hire him or her, and who been hired already into the organization, now gets into the, or gets jacked into the trust factor. Would he able to manage the team? Would he able to, manage the complex solutions, etc., etc., right? Now, that's where the trust deficit has to be replaced. Unless if you do not, keep that opportunity, because I strongly believe, you know, it's never ever a, fast failing in a, forward bidding. It's all about, what do you learn out of that particular, fall, when you fall, right? So example, if you look at today, whenever I have also gone for the new role, not that I have not received, those trust deficits, saying that how would you able to manage, how would you able to, do it, even at IBM, because end of the day, they are also human beings, right? They are also, having the same food and, everything what me and you must be having. Now, the way what I do it here is basically, along with my existing role, right? I start, performing my next role as a stretch, as a, additional, whereby, the little gamut of the, trust could be built. The person who is going to hire me next, maybe a year later or 2 years later, or a team that I want to be the part of, they start seeing me, how am I performing, what could be done. Now, this is
My
my,
dear friend,
sugar.
if I may interrupt you, okay?
Sure.
Now, think of anybody else. So I firmly believe that everybody should be given the same opportunity, right?
Hmm.
Now, think of anybody else. Here you are proving yourself, right? With due respect, by stretching, by proving that you can possibly do the next role so that somebody you become visible, you are proving yourself as worthy of being considered, which is not true for anybody who might not have a disability. And I think this is a structural gap, this is a systemic gap. And this happens for everybody, Rajesh. And let me broad base this beyond people with disabilities. Let me talk about even women then. Because when women go on maternity leave, or when women have children, even they have to constantly prove themselves, because a male will not have the responsibility of taking care of children, or a person who might be from the LGBTQ community, or when there are differences in generations. And that is where, Rajesh, I think we need to look at a systemic mindset change where these differences stop being a hindrance. Rajesh Mehta is a performer, irrespective of whether he is a person with disability or not. Why should Rajesh Mehta have to prove his willingness to stretch, willingness to learn and grow? And that is the issue.
The answer to your entire, perspective is Rajesh Mehta also is not probably a woman. That's why all the more reason, that Rajesh Mehta has to keep on proving himself. What happens is, what you are saying is absolutely right, Sonika, because, what happens, I'm sure, Arushi can also, come into this, and she may also, put her perspective. See, today, I, it's always, there is a double whammy, right? I'm a, gentleman, right?
Mm.
Now, though I might be a disabled, but I do not have that second, diversity hat called women.
Mm.
Now, if I would have been women as well as disabled, it would have been double bonus.
Double bonus or double whammy?
double bonus, double bonus for sure,
Uh,
according to me, according to my experience, because this has happened with me, by the way.
mm,
Okay, and the situation that I wanted to narrate is that they said that this is open for the diversity. So I said, yeah, I'm a diversity person, right? And immediately I got a response saying, oh, but you're not a woman.
mm. Yeah.
Anyways, what I'm trying to say, I completely hear you. We
Mm,
need to have a clear cut roadmaps. We clearly need to have those learning resources needs to be brought under the radar of inclusivity, and same time we also need to look at how do we tackle the mindset. Because
yes.
I agree, the path is definitely going to become the kind of narrower, but then trust me that today the world has changed. Arushi, I know that you keep meeting so many aspirants, person with disability from the different walks of the life, and I'm sure they must be having their emotional, but pragmatic situations, and where they must be also, kind of dreaming, and stating that why we are not getting that segue into the boardrooms, why we are not kind of being hired at a lateral level or a mid level or a higher level. I mean, look at the way whole technology has changed people with disabilities lifestyle, and today the kind of a skill set what we have in the group of disability, oh my god, I mean, I can't even believe that we have is and engineers who are visually impaired and whatnot, right? So Arushi, how do you look at this?
Um, I'll be very honest here. Throughout school, grad, post grad, I've always felt that I've had to work thrice as hard to probably achieve the same goal. Considering I'm from one of the best media institutes in the country, I know that to crack that same entrance exam, I've had to work thrice as hard as an average person, right? Because I knew it was not going to be an easy task. That's one thing. And when we talk about taking upon ourselves extra, I have done that. I was working two internships throughout my internship period. Thereafter as well, I was working at two places, both work from home with college and absurd timings. The thing is that we sometimes tend to stretch ourselves so thin that both mental and physical well-being takes it all. It leaves that picture, and we are fighting constantly with an ableist world that will not navigate our needs and accommodations. We have to navigate a world that is not meant for us. That's one thing. So when I meet, especially when I talk to younger people with disabilities, I'm only 22, but if whenever I speak to somebody younger to me, somebody trying to pursue a graduation, post graduation, whatever, I give them a couple of tips. So these are tried and tested. I'm not somebody who's a pro maybe yet, but these are what have worked so far, right? Number one, develop your skills.
Mm,
If you know you're good at something, please do online courses. Free courses are there, government websites exist. Coursera से लेकर के an academy से लेकर everything is there. Please upskill yourself and please be very adept to your industry insights and what is new in your industry. For example, for content writer, it's Chat GPT, Gemini, AI, all of that. Please learn that, as much as it might sound boring to you, some of you with your backgrounds, please learn that. That's one. Number two, number two and three, rather, let's combine. Look for work from home opportunities. They are there. Thanks to COVID, LinkedIn is bombarded with work from home opportunities. Um, Internshala has good opportunities. If you do not have the bandwidth to work 6 hours a day, 3 hours a day, if you can't commit a certain time, go to Internshala, take your freelance projects, get the project done, take your payment, forget it.
mm,
Done and dusted. Then, and please do not, for the sake of your disability, grab the first opportunity that knocks your door. Do not do that. Know your worth. You know what you're doing. You know what's good for you. You made a decision to pursue your studies in a certain area, so you knew you would be able to handle that area. And if you're a pro in that area, if you're not, make yourself a pro. Upskill. If you're a pro and if you know I deserve what I'm earning, or I deserve to be compensated for whatever work I'm doing monetarily or by incentive, please hunt for those opportunities till the last mile possible, because they are there. They're hidden. They're there. Do not lessen your work's worth. Do not come up with. Do not just say yes to every freelance opportunity. Beyond the point, you should not be working always for free. And I've learned this lesson recently, and I've learned it the hard way. It doesn't look good in your CV. It's just a waste of, if it's not good on your CV, and if it's not paying you, if it's not completing either of those conditions, it's a waste on your time. It's completely waste. And also, maybe at some point, decide between working for money or for a brand. If a brand is hiring you for whatever reason, diversity hiring or not, if you're skilled, a brand will hire you at some point. If it's a good brand, take it. If it's not, ask them for money. And be a good negotiator, learn negotiating skills. Somebody who called you for an interview with no intention to pay you might pay you something, at least if you're a good negotiator and you know your skills are there, because they see the CV. They don't care. They care about experience. I have recently again learned this. They don't care about degrees anymore, at least in some work areas, in the industry specific
That's
areas.
a big change which
Yeah.
is happening. In fact, now
Absolutely.
there is a huge this thing that skills are more important than where you studied from, what you studied from. If you can do the job,
Yes.
you're good.
Yes.
Yeah.
And one more thing that I would like to add, this is completely on the spot. Do not worry about the college you're from. It doesn't matter. If you are from a Delhi University college, if you are from IPU, if you are from one of those universities, great. Don't worry, don't care about if I'm from a tier 2 college. Please don't think that. Nobody cares. If you have the skills again, you're golden. Find a mentor. This saved my life pretty much, because I hit rock bottom hunting for internships. I was like, मुझे कुछ नहीं मिलना, and I had a mandatory 2 credit paper that I had to answer for in college. If I would have lost all the marks had I not gotten an internship, I was like, I'm done. I can't do this. Either I get rejection mails or I don't get rewarded at all. Right? But a mentor at UN happened. And from that, things have changed so much that a project that I was supposed to initially close down is now thriving to the best of its capacity with 35 members that I'm leading, that I am managing. Right? Find a mentor. It's not going to happen magically. Please talk to people. Please start conversations. Please do LinkedIn requests. Please do all of that. Take one step, and I promise you will find somebody who will take 2 steps, and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
And
So,
yes.
so Arushi, I completely hear you. You know, the scale is the currency, right? And which at a corporate we have been believing into this now for I don't know how many years, right? But then, if you look at that, you know, the pertinent thought or a question that remains unanswered is that, you know, if you want to hire a person with disability or a differently able person whose responsibility is to make him or her skillable or upgrades his, you know, the skill sets. End of the day, of course, it's the person, right? But you know, somewhere all the ecosystem that requires to build your skills has to be user friendly, at least maybe not 100%, but up to 70-80%. So is organization, you know, kind of looking into that? Is, you know, kind of organization when we talk about the people, culture, etc., right? The way we, you know, have programs to uplift the women. Does any organization have a program uplifting people with disability, or our organization even today are looking the hiring of people with disability still as a CSR? or a charity.
Brilliant. So, when you were asking and speaking, Rajesh, and you said that when we hire a person with disability, whose responsibility is it, their career development?
Mm.
And the first thing which came to my mind was that when we hire anybody, irrespective of, what is their identity, or how, whether they are a woman or a man or an able person, disabled person, LGBTQ community, we would like to believe that everyone is equally responsible for their learning, their growth, and their development. But an organization needs to provide an equal opportunity, and that is what equity is about, right?
Definitely. Yes,
And
definitely.
that is where I think, uh, I believe that conversations like this, what we are having, and creating awareness, like you mentioned about the tools which are, you don't even need a sign interpreter. There are these tools which are available, and it need not cost money. And Arushi spoke about jobs which can be offered, in a hybrid model or work from home. I remember having a conversation when we were doing this report, 21 Marching, and one of the persons with disabilities said that during COVID, when there was lockdown, all the able bodied people became so restless because of the lockdown, because they could not go to work, they could not socialize, they could not go watch movies, they could not do so many things, right? And they want us people with disabilities to live in a lockdown. Now, the
Yes.
point is that not every person with disability requires work from home. Different disabilities require different reasonable accommodations, right? The question is that as an organization, as a manager, am I willing to engage in that conversation and create a culture of disclosure? Create that trust. Rajesh, you spoke about trust deficit. Can a person with disability walk up to their manager and say that, boss, this is what I need to be my best version, to be able to grow, to be able to take up the next level job? And when this conversation can happen, you forget about a person with disability. In today's environment, um, a lot of people are not able to have this conversation with organizations, with layoffs happening left, right, and center. But my biggest and earnest request to organizations and managers and leadership would be that invest in your managers and leaders and systemic approach where people with disabilities, whether visible or invisible, have a voice. They can come up and tell you that what is it that they need, so that once they are hired, they don't remain where they are. They can become managers, team leaders, VPs, directors, because once they are there, then they can start creating a change across. And I don't know what you think, Rajesh.
So, Sonika, I have a very blunt question to put forward.
Hmm.
Today, if we look at least many of the organizations, maybe not all or most, but at least many, right, must be having DNI leader as a role, right?
Last I
Now,
heard, last I heard, they've started letting go.
okay, interesting. But there is, okay, first and foremost, does organization require diversity, person? I mean, DNI as a role, as a separate role. Of course, yes. It cannot be mixed with all the rest, all the, with the different roles, as a many of the organizations today I see, kind of they say that, okay, because of the budgetary issues and all, diversity has been done by the HR, right? It cannot be, right? Number one. Number two, in fact, whatever the numbers of DNI leaders that we have today, I think one of the goal that they should drive is not just having the race of which external award my organization wins.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you so much for saying that.
Rather how much, the, uh, skilled based talent they have able to move within the organization. How many new roles? I was watching this movie, right, which it recently came, Shrikant Bola. Shrikant is a good
Uh,
friend,
uh, uh.
right? And then, of course, me and Shrikant, we kept talking about it. But in the movie, you might have seen, he went to the USA. Now, in USA, if the faculties can teach him, why not our IIT teachers? Why not, our DNI leaders can make person with differently able to pick up the unheard or a non-conventional role? Why not? Why, kind of, they need to be picked up. I mean, especially in the area of visually impaired. Why only HR?
Yeah.
Why not into the other business sides? Of course, today, kind of, we do have people picking up role of product management, software management, engineering, coding, and many more. But then those are the, kind of horizontal,
Yeah.
right? But what happens to the, kind of making people ready towards the lateral movement? Now, that's where, rather than just, kind of having those typical non-budgetary, typical employee engagement programs like mentoring or something like that, why not, kind of, DNI should spend, some bit of a money or a budget as per the requirement, and see to it, it would be a focused exercise to grow this, people with disabilities.
Absolutely.
Can I
Absolutely.
just add on one thing?
Yes,
So,
Sarish.
most of the organizations that I spoke to, most of the people that I spoke to who have worked in several good organizations, they have no DEI person in place. The HR is recruiting, having no idea whatsoever. Why am I asking to be, at least be spoken to over a call so that I can understand what the role is, so I can come for a physical interview if it's worth it.
Hmm.
If I'm going in to East Delhi for a physical interview, it has to be worth my time.
Right.
Because your office is in some corner of Delhi, some small congested corner of Delhi, it's not likely to be wheelchair accessible.
Hmm.
And you have no idea about how wheelchair access really works. So I usually don't talk about other disabilities because my lived experience and work both revolves around locomotor impairments. And with that being said, there are no DEI people. And while organizations are doing, are some of the big organizations rather are now focusing on diversity and equity inclusion for LGBTQ and disabled people. Uh, the DEI head, even if he or she is there, they don't belong to any of these communities, and I feel that is a major issue. Because if you're not connected to the community, at least at some level, you do not have the, I'm sorry, but you don't have the right to be telling me the kind of reasonable accommodations I need and I don't need. I'm not gonna hear you say that, आप आ सकती हैं ईस्ट दिल्ली. मेरे को डिसाइड करनी दीजिए ना आप.
बिल्कुल.
Let me decide. Even when I was working with UN, एक constant question था कि okay, can you do this, bandwidth है नहीं थी क्या है, things like that. For other companies, a lot of it is कि मतलब मुझे बोला गया that come for an interview tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock. Now I had an internal exam that I had to finish just before my vacations. I had stuff to do. I said, okay, let me speak to somebody, some manager, HR, जो भी reporting है, so I can know what the role is about. And this is a disability affirmative locomotor disability पे they're working, the organization. And they said, no, we'll talk straight away in the interview. I'm like, okay, that works, I think. Then next day I text them, okay, please give me the address, and there is no reward.
Hmm.
So I take the day off. I lose my attendance in college, and I have a strict attendance criteria to deal with, and I don't get called for the interview. I mean, how does that even make sense, right? So if you don't know what you're doing as a DEI hire, there's no point for that person to be there, in my opinion. And I don't know how to put this in a more sugar-coated manner, very honestly speaking. So that is one fundamental issue that I'm seeing a whole lot often.
Thank you
But
so
in fact,
much.
adding to this, Sarika, it reminds me a friend of mine who happens to be a differently able person, and he was been denied, the people management role,
Hmm.
right? And he was like been given a excuse saying that you have so many difficulties already to yourself. How would you manage the team? Now that's a very hilarious. You know, in fact, somewhere I tried, to be um, consoling, with the person who was having this conversation, because see, he as a DNI leader also have this fear that how many employees today may able to accept their manager as a DNI person or a differently able person,
Differently abled.
right? Now that's the reality.
Hmm.
That's the reality, and that's where I think organization culture,
Fear
you
of
know,
failure.
yeah, the behavior or a DNI leader needs to become little more stronger than what they are. I think we are going through the phase where I know that, as I mentioned earlier in my conversation, there are two types of organization. One is, hiring, and second one is still, watching from the distance. Now, from the organization which is watching from the distance, that's fine. I cannot do anything with that right now. But the people who have already hired, they really need to buck up. Because otherwise, what may happen? In fact, many of my known friends within the group of differently able, because they are not receiving the role enhancements, they are shifting into the government jobs.
Hmm.
They are getting into that particular, era, saying that, okay, even here while working and while putting so much of efforts, if I'm not getting damn anything, let me go to the government sectors and become more.
Yeah, I can understand.
Yeah.
So, we've been speaking almost for an hour, and I think all three of us can possibly continue talking even more. But I think we'll catch up again. It's This is a topic which is extremely wide, extremely deep. I think we've right now also gotten into how strong DEI leaders need to be. We've also gotten into culture of disclosure. We've also gotten into systemic changes. We've also gotten into um, how managers can support. And I don't think we've gone into the depth of any of them, and we can't in an hour. But as expected, when three passionate people get together to speak on a topic, time just flies. So thank you, Rajesh and Arushi, and myself, of course, for this conversation. And I would just like to end that with that, anybody who watches this, I hope they find something meaningful, something to take away from our conversation. And for people with disabilities, if you are watching this, Marching Sheep is not a recruitment firm. But if you're looking for a job, do send us your resume at info@marchingsheep.com, And we will try and connect you to organizations, our clients, that are trying to build disability confident organizations. So that's where we are. Do remember the tips that Arushi gave. Do remember the tips that Rajesh gave. And thank you so much for listening in.
Thank you, Sonika, for kind of itching our brains.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sonika. It's been a pleasure.
It's been an absolute pleasure. And bye bye, everyone. See you again soon.